A big one swallows a small one. Hemro or Mahlkönig, the large global grinder manufacturer with German and Swiss roots, has made significant strides and acquires Zenia, a small but refined German espresso machine company. A handful of employees, fantastic machines, super exciting, innovative ideas that have always come from the house of Zenia and are now, from this point on, part of the Hemro group. This is a very fresh story and I want to share it with you in this video. I like to share my thoughts on this, speculate a bit, but also try to put it into context within the market, what I believe the impact will be, not just on these two companies, but also on the broader industry landscape. But also why this can indeed be observed within a significantly broader playing field. So let's dive right in and begin with the video now. The fact that Hemro or Mahlkönig buys Zenia, a smaller company, is being taken over by a larger one isn't necessarily an extraordinary story. We've seen this time and again across all industries. Yet, for our small coffee industry, it is something special and also an interesting pointer. Before we dive into that, let's try to briefly lay out the basics again. So Holger Dreisig has sold his company and it is now completely under the ownership of the Hemro Group. The Hemro CEO is now officially listed as managing director of the Zenia company. That's also how Holger outlines his vision. In the future, he'll primarily focus on development. And that is certainly something he excels at. And with that, Mahlkönig naturally gains significant expertise. Holger has consistently raised the bar over the years with the heat exchanger machines, and now, with the dual boiler concept, he has developed a lot of truly fascinating innovations. Also, and we'll get to that in a moment, in terms of open APIs, Bean Conqueror integration, web interface, and so on. That's interesting for a variety of reasons, and I wish Holger all the very best moving forward. I think it's brave, I think it's a cool decision. I also congratulate him on the decision, on this courageous decision to say, I'm handing this over now, I'm focusing on something else. He says, it's great. Now others do the advertising. And I focus on development, I'm really good at it, it's what I want to do. Holger, his full name is Holger Dreisig, which translates to 30 in German. He's clearly not 30 anymore. Neither am I, just to be fair, but I believe he has now found a lasting, meaningful home for his brand, his baby, in a company that seems to combine strong values, good ideas, and a forward-looking spirit. That deserves congratulations. But what does it actually mean overall? Let's step back, open it up a little, and put it in context. To do that, I'd like to rewind 2 or 3 years to the World of Coffee Expo. There, Mahlkönig, alongside Lamarzoko as their partner, showcased an innovative interface designed to make the synchronization between the grinder and the espresso machine possible, marking a significant step forward in coffee technology. Interesting story, nothing new now. Mahlkönig itself took steps in that direction 20 years ago, back then with Dalla Corte, but that's a different story, which we might want to revisit at some point. But now with Lamarzoko. No longer relying on a serial interface, but instead everything is seamlessly managed through the web, in the cloud, and beyond. And that was presented at the trade fair. It didn't go incredibly well. But that's a different story, it's going much better now. It's the latest major innovation at Mahlkönig, and the key term is GBS, which stands for Grind by Sync. And we most definitely won't be hearing about this for the last time. Up until now, though, it's primarily being discussed in the context of high-performance commercial-grade espresso machines. So Lamarzoko Gastro was the major player in that space, and what initially seemed to be developing as a promising flirtation has since lost a fair bit of its momentum and become noticeably quieter over time. During that time, there was also quite a bit of ongoing speculation for a while, since Lamarzoko is part of the DeLonghi universe, about whether something might be brewing, like an acquisition of Mahlkönig, or perhaps even a closer collaboration or strategic partnership between the two companies down the line. Let's put it this way, between Mahlkönig, Hemro, and the DeLonghi group. Now it has become surprisingly quiet, and what I find striking is that during this time, Lamarzoko became increasingly vocal about its own grinder developments. We have the Pico, we have the Swan, some own models from Lamarzoko in the grinder sector that suddenly appear. We tested some, check them in the video description down there. So Lamarzoko suddenly becomes a grinder manufacturer themselves. Naturally, I'm left wondering if that's perhaps has influenced the kind of relationship Mahlkönig and Lamarzoko share. Anyway, I believe the matter is settled now. Lamarzoko produces different grinders. Lamarzoko won't be collaborating much more closely with Mahlkönig. I think they're building up their own expertise there. That's how it seems to me. And yes, Lamarzoko has evolved into a full-fledged grinder company. They used to collaborate with Etzinger, then there were these slight flirtations with Grind by Sync, but today Lamarzoko stands on its own as a grinder company, seamlessly integrating machines, espresso machines, and grinder manufacturing under one roof. Everything under one roof. So then the question arises, what exactly is it and where is it actually headed in the future? Now with this Grind by Sync with Mahlkönig, perhaps also in the future, what are the next steps going forward? On the hospitality level, there's still much to be done, likely with others as well, and perhaps open interfaces will be provided there. Let's see what else happens there. But first for the home sector. A truly interesting step is currently being taken by acquiring Zenia. And this is a machine that interface-wise is very, very open and has already demonstrated with Bean Conquer and its connectivity that we are capable of working with other devices, be it scales, apps, or even a web-based interface to communicate effectively. And I believe that's precisely where many of Holger Dreisig's strengths come into play. And that's why it's really smart of Mahlkönig to say, let's look in this direction. And I think we should expand the context a bit more. Because soon another manufacturer will enter the market, one that has also been researching the topic for several years now, synchronization between the espresso machine and the espresso grinder. That's Nunk. They will immediately launch with their own ecosystem, which means they'll directly provide this feature as soon as it becomes available on the market. Synchronization between the grinder and the espresso machine. And to explain this in more detail, for those of you who might not be familiar, what does that mean? It means that the espresso machine actively provides feedback to the grinder if the extraction process didn't go as smoothly or successfully as the machine had anticipated or intended. Then the machine gives feedback to the grinder and says, hey, adjust me a bit finer, hey, adjust me a bit coarser, so the next espresso runs smoothly again. This is how it works on the commercial level, and this is what we've seen with Dalla Corte for many years, for example, who originally partnered with Mahlkönig to develop a grinder as well, seamlessly integrating it into their system, which were perfectly synchronized with each other and have been seamlessly integrated into their extensive range of commercial machines. For quite a long time now. Now onto the home sector, a new window. Let's see if also Lamarzoko is heading in that direction. Nunk, it's definitely moving in that direction, and I'm almost entirely convinced Mahlkönig, along with Zenia, will also follow the same path as well. And that is, I think, a very, very interesting field. Why? This interplay between the grinder and the espresso machine, meaning the precise grind size, and then naturally the actual espresso extraction process, is for many people who are still just starting out with an espresso machine, initially quite a steep and challenging hill to climb. I frequently hear that there's a lot of respect, even hesitation, until you've mastered how to properly adjust it and can finally pull a consistently good espresso. That's something that initially seems quite intimidating and might make some people who are genuinely interested. In a portafilter espresso machine, decide, perhaps I'll just stick with my current system instead. And more often than not, that system happens to be a fully automatic coffee machine. The fully automatic coffee machine market is 3.5 times larger than the portafilter espresso machine market in German-speaking countries. It's an enormous, truly massive market. That's precisely why it's so appealing and attractive to all espresso machine manufacturers. Because who wouldn't want a generous slice of that much bigger, more enticing pie? And perhaps there's even a new emerging transition market forming, and I'm truly quite convinced of that. A market steadily shifting toward full automation, syncing the espresso machine with the grinder to achieve a more streamlined and efficient brewing process. We take that off your hands and you really just need to tamp and lock in. And that brings you closer to the brewing process. So you can still have that tactile experience that the portafilter offers. You can take over the tamping and you can completely manage the locking and process yourself. You see the coffee and you also get to observe how the lovely extraction takes place. You're much closer to the preparation process than you would ever be with a fully automatic coffee machine. Yet it's just as simple. You only need to tamp, and that's really no big hocus pocus. Distributing the coffee grounds might still be a bit of hocus pocus, but there are simple solutions for that nowadays. I truly believe that this market is one of the most intriguing and dynamic for espresso machine makers on one side and equally significant for grinder manufacturers on the other. And if you can naturally offer that all in one place, then it absolutely has tremendous potential for success, growth, and a significant market impact. I believe I would go so far as to say, in recent years, single-dose grinders have been the big thing. Really, a massive number of single-dose grinders were sold, and the sales of grinders featuring top-mounted hoppers have dropped quite drastically in comparison. Grinding by weight became increasingly popular, and in both cases, Mahlkönig wasn't leading the charge but was merely reacting. In both cases, Mahlkönig kind of missed the trend a bit. In fact, they pretty much slept on the home segment for a long time, failing to act proactively and adapt quickly. The Varia Home was indeed used in the home segment, but in terms of usability, it was more of a hassle and not exactly a great grinder for espresso, lacking the finesse and precision needed for optimal results. Okay, I would roughly diagnose it that way. And now I believe the Mahlkönig is telling us we really need to stay sharp and alert here. And if suddenly now machines are only or in the future increasingly sold directly with a grinder, then we absolutely don't want to miss out on that crucial opportunity. We don't want to miss this train again, and that's why we need to see who we can work with. And who could possibly be more fitting than a company that has already developed expertise with open interfaces? And who is more suitable, who is available, or which company is available, and which people within those companies also have the competencies to further develop Mahlkönig. And that's why I would say this whole acquisition makes complete sense. It's a very smart move, I believe, both for or from Zenia, as well as for and from Mahlkönig Hembro. With a view to the steps we might see in the future in the market, and one more little digression again, considering the broader strategic implications and the potential growth opportunities. A glance around. I'd argue the espresso machines from Sage Breville, DeLonghi, Gastrobrac, and whatever else is available in the compact machine sector, it's essentially an attempt to break into a similar or intermediate hybrid category of espresso machines. And even if, for many, it's the case that there's an espresso machine here and a grinder there, and the synchronization isn't established yet at the moment, we still have strong simplification elements there. So also, for example, with the Sage Oracle Jet, we've connected the grinder with a tamper. So we actually don't see the grounds there, but it's directly grinding and tamping, and the right amount is dispensed. And afterwards, we get feedback on whether we've used too much or too little coffee, or we receive feedback that we need to grind finer or coarser. And also a machine that operates independently from the grinder, but Amaro also goes in that direction a bit. It also provides us with feedback, instructing us to adjust the grinder ourselves. And yes, let's see, maybe one day we'll also spot a grinder connection there. Who knows? But you can tell or you hear that I believe a new hybrid market is emerging there, because grinders and machines are more and more being considered as interconnected concepts, simply to make it easier for users to operate the equipment effectively and prepare a truly delicious espresso at home. In this sense, I would also interpret this step, this acquisition, in that way. I think it's a good step, an interesting step. It remains exciting to keep observing the market. Let's see what else is going on. Let's see what else is happening. We'll keep you updated with our thoughts on all these ongoing topics. But I'm really curious, how do you see it all? Can you relate to it? Can you see that this might have been a motivation? Or are there perhaps entirely different reasons or thoughts behind this that I might not have fully considered here? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section about it. Would you interpret it in that general direction? Perhaps I've missed or overlooked other machines that might also be heading in a similar or related direction. Then I'd find it really interesting if you could also share that in the comments section. Fingers crossed it all works out perfectly for Mahlkönig, Holger and Zenia. Wishing you a fantastic and fruitful collaboration. We're really excited to see it unfold and what you'll come up with so that even more people at home can enjoy truly great espresso. That's all from me today. Take care, enjoy some good coffee, bye, and see you soon.